Imagine a warrior so consumed by rage that his own body becomes a weapon of mass destruction. A man who bites through shields, feels no pain, and slaughters 50 enemies in a single battle before collapsing into a death-like weakness. These weren't comic book characters. According to the Old Norse sagas, these warriors actually existed, and their stories are more terrifying than any Hollywood fiction. The Old Norse word was berserkr. In the 9th century poem Haraldskvæði, they're described howling like animals alongside wolf warriors at the Battle of Hafrsfjord. Snorri Sturluson's Ynglinga saga says they rushed forward without armor, acted like wild beasts, bit their shields, and possessed such terrifying strength that neither fire nor iron could harm them. After the fury ended, they became weak and exhausted. But here's what makes this absolutely insane. We're not talking about mythology. We're talking about named individuals whose actions were recorded in detail. Warriors whose violence was so extreme that medieval writers struggle to explain what they witnessed. Today you're going to meet 3 of the most hardcore berserkers ever documented in the Norse sagas. And everything I'm about to tell you comes straight from the original sources. Number 3, Thorir Longshin, the berserker who fell at Norway's most important battle. The year is approximately 872 AD. King Harald Fairhair is fighting to unify all of Norway under one crown. In Hafrsfjord, near modern-day Stavanger, the largest naval battle in Norwegian history is about to begin. Harald commands a fleet equipped with a terrifying secret weapon. 12 berserkers positioned in the prow of his flagship. According to Gretti's saga, Thorir Longshin was called a terrible berserk. The saga emphasizes the belief surrounding these warriors. No iron could bite them when Harald's fleet crashed into the coalition of rebel kings. The berserkers were unleashed as shock troops. The Haraldskvæði poem, written by Thorbjorn Hornklofi shortly after the battle, describes these warriors. They bear bloody shields. Red with blood are their spears when they come to fight. They form a closed group. The prince in his wisdom puts trust in such men who hack through enemy shields. Thorir fought with such ferocity that his enemies believed he was invulnerable. But even berserkers could fall. The saga records that he died in battle, and King Harald ordered special care for the fallen wolfskins. His death marked the end of an era. After Hafrsfjord, Harald faced no more serious opposition. One unified Norway was born from the blood of warriors like Thorir Longshin. But here's what's fascinating. This wasn't just propaganda. Archaeological surveys of Hafrsfjord have searched for physical evidence of this massive naval clash. While no definitive artifacts have been found, the battle's impact was so significant that Iceland was colonized largely by Norwegian refugees fleeing Harald's newly unified kingdom. Number 2. Skallagrimr Kveldulfsson, the berserker who almost killed his own son. Skallagrimr wasn't just a warrior, he was a farmer, a blacksmith, a poet, and a founding father of Iceland. But Egil's saga makes clear. The berserker fury ran in his blood. His father was Kveldulfr, the evening wolf. His ancestor Halbjorn was called half-troll. The saga describes Skallagrimr as being like his father in stature, strength, face, and temper. When he was 25, he went bald, earning the name Skallagrimr, meaning bald Grimr. After his brother Thorolf was killed by King Harald's men, Skallagrimr and his aging father Kveldulfr took revenge. They recaptured one of Thorolf's ships and killed everyone aboard, including 2 of the king's cousins. 50 men died in that clash. Then they fled to Iceland, but Kveldulfr died during the voyage, exhausted by his berserker rage. Skallagrimr settled in Iceland at a place called Borg and lived what seemed like a peaceful life. He had 2 sons, Thorolf and Egil, but the saga records something that shows the terrifying unpredictability of the berserker state. One evening, Skallagrimr was playing a ball game with his 12-year-old son Egil and Egil's friend Thord. As darkness fell, something changed. The saga describes him entering a dangerous state of hamrama, shape strength as night approached. Suddenly, without warning, Skallagrimr seized young Thord and slammed him into the ground with such force that the boy died instantly. When he grabbed his own son Egil with the same murderous intent, Egil's nursemaid Thorgerd Brak screamed that he was attacking his own child like a mad beast. The words broke through the fury. Skallagrimr released Egil but immediately charged at Thorgerd. She dove off a cliff to escape, swimming desperately. Skallagrimr hurled a boulder after her that struck and killed her. Then, as suddenly as it began, the rage ended. Skallagrimr returned to normal, seemingly unaware of what he'd done. This is the pattern the sagas describe again and again. Uncontrollable violence, followed by weakness and amnesia. Skallagrimr lived to old age and died at his farm at Borg. But his story reveals something crucial. Berserkers weren't just battlefield weapons. The fury could erupt anywhere, anytime, making them dangerous even to their own families. Number 1. Kveldulfr, the Evening Wolf, whose final battle killed 50 men and cost him his life. If you want to understand Berserkers, you have to understand Kveldulfr. His very name means Evening Wolf. Egil's saga describes him as a man of surpassing size and strength who accumulated wealth through Viking raids. He was known for his wisdom and good counsel, but every day as evening approached, he became sullen and dangerous. Few dared speak with him after dark. He was an evening sleeper, and people said he was Hamramr, shape-strong. Some believed his soul left his body at night and entered a wolf's form. Kveldulfr had refused to serve King Harald, sending his son Thorolf in his place. But when Thorolf was killed through the treachery of the king's men, the old berserker's grief transformed into something else entirely. After being denied compensation by the king, Kveldulfr and his son Skallagrimr planned their revenge. They spotted a ship belonging to Sigtrygg and Halvard, the brothers who had caused Thorolf's downfall through lies and rumors. This ship was flying the king's banner. What happened next became legendary. The saga describes how Kveldulfr went into a full berserker episode aboard that ship. In his fury, he killed a man named Halvard, driving his axe so deep into the ship's deck that it stuck fast. The saga says the conflict became a slaughter. 50 men died, including Guttorm's 2 young sons. But this final rage came at a terrible price. Egil's saga explicitly describes the aftermath. Kveldulfr grew weak, took to his bed, and never recovered. When the family fled to Iceland, the elderly Kveldulfr died during the voyage, his body exhausted by that last berserker fury. Before he died, he commanded his crew to place his body in a coffin and set it adrift. Wherever it washed ashore would be where his son should settle. The coffin came to shore in Iceland's Mýrar district, near a place called Borg. There, Skallagrimr built his farm, fulfilling his father's final wish. So what actually caused the berserker state? Modern researchers have debated this for decades. Some suggest battle trance, the combination of adrenaline, stress analgesia from endorphins and psychological conditioning through ritual could produce altered states without any drugs. Others point to psychoactive substances. A 2019 peer-reviewed paper in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology argued that black henbane fits the symptom profile better than the commonly cited fly agaric mushroom. Henbane's tropane alkaloids can produce delirium, agitation, hallucinations, and pain suppression. But the authors stressed the evidence isn't sufficient to prove historical use. The honest answer: battle trance alone could explain much of what the sagas describe. Anything beyond that remains unproven What we do know from the sources is this. Berserkers were real warriors who inspired genuine terror. They served kings as elite shock troops at battles like Hafrsfjord. They could turn violent without warning, endangering friend and enemy alike. And when the fury ended, they became weak and exhausted. By the 11th century, berserker behavior was outlawed in both Norway and Iceland. The Graga's law code sentenced berserkers to outlawry. They transformed from heroes into villains, from the king's champions into dangerous bullies. But for a few bloody centuries, warriors like Veldulfr, Skala Grimr, and Thorir Longchin defined what it meant to be the most feared fighters in the Viking world. These weren't myths. They were men whose violence was so extreme that their names echo through history 13 centuries later.